Ladies, let's get something straight. Men don't always say what they feel. Most of the time, they show it quietly, subtly, and sometimes in ways you don't even recognize. So when a man misses you, don't sit around waiting for a grand speech. Don't wait for poetry or long text or 3 a.m. emotional calls. That's not always how it works. A real man, especially the kind who's emotionally invested, shows it in ways that speak louder than words, but only if you're paying attention. When a man truly misses you, he won't always come out and say it directly. Most men are not wired to express emotions the same way women do. They don't always come with heartfelt words or dramatic gestures. A lot of the time, it's in the silence where you see how much he's thinking about you. It's in the actions that don't need to be explained. That's where you learn what's really going on in his heart. You've got to understand that when a man misses you, it's a quiet thing. It's not fireworks or some grand announcement. It's in how he carries you in his daily routine, how he makes you a part of his thoughts, even when you're not around. You'll see it if you look close enough. It might be in how he suddenly messages you out of nowhere, not with a big romantic statement, but with a, "Hey, how you been?" Or, "I saw something that reminded me of you." It's light, almost casual, but don't be fooled. That's a man reaching out from a place of feeling. He doesn't want to come off too vulnerable, but he can't help himself. He misses you, and he's trying to open a door. Sometimes it's even quieter than that. He might not even send a message, but you'll see him watching your stories, liking your posts, or commenting just enough to let you know he's there. That's a man who wants to be present without saying too much. He doesn't want to seem desperate, but he needs to feel close to you somehow. Social media becomes a window he uses to keep a little part of you near. It's his way of staying connected without having to break down and admit what he's really feeling inside. Because to him, that silence is safer than opening up too far. You'll also notice it in the excuses he makes to talk to you. He might ask you something simple, like where you bought something, or what you think about a current event. It's not really about the question. It's about hearing your voice, seeing your name pop up, feeling a moment of closeness. When a man misses you, he doesn't always know how to say it, but he feels it. And feelings always find their way out. He might even bring up something from the past that only you two understand, maybe a private joke, a place you went together, or a song you liked. These are not coincidences. These are intentional drops of memory that he's putting out there, hoping you'll catch them and realize he's still holding on. Sometimes the silence comes with support. You may not hear from him for a while, but he still stands up for you when your name comes up. He still checks on your well-being through mutual friends or quietly supports your wins. He might not be in your face, but he's still behind the scenes rooting for you. That's a man who hasn't moved on emotionally, even if it looks like he's distant. Missing someone doesn't always look like chasing. Sometimes it looks like holding space. Sometimes it's him staying away because he respects what you need or what the moment calls for. But that doesn't mean he doesn't feel the absence. It just means he's trying to deal with it in his own way. A man who misses you will also start changing how he moves. His habits might shift. He might try to stay busy, working more, hitting the gym, hanging with his friends, not because he's happier, but because he's trying to fill a space that only you filled. He won't always admit it, but you can see it in his eyes if you ever come across him again. That moment of pause, that slight hesitation, it says everything. Silence can be louder than a scream when it's filled with meaning. If you really meant something to him, that void is hard to ignore. And he might be doing everything he can not to feel it, but it shows in how restless he is. Sometimes men think they can outwork a broken heart. They try to distract themselves, to pretend they've moved on. But deep down, if he misses you, it leaks out through the cracks. He might see someone else and still think about what he had with you. He might hear your laugh in a crowd or smell your perfume in passing and suddenly feel a wave of emotion he wasn't ready for. That's how missing you catches up with him, silently, suddenly, and deeply. And when he's alone, that's when it hits hardest. Not when he's busy, but when the world goes quiet. That's when your absence echoes the loudest. A man missing you doesn't always mean he'll come running back with flowers and apologies. Sometimes his pride gets in the way. Sometimes he feels like he blew his shot. Sometimes he's just scared. But if he truly misses you, he's going to show you in the way he lingers. He may not say, "I love you," but he'll still be there when you need him. He may not ask for another chance, but he'll find ways to remind you of the bond you shared. And deep down, he's hoping you'll notice. That's why you have to pay attention to the patterns, not just the words. Does he keep showing up in your world, even quietly? Does he find ways to stay in your orbit? Does he send little signals that he's thinking of you, even if he's not saying it directly? If the answer is yes, then believe this. He misses you. And that silent kind of missing is often the most powerful kind, because it means he's carrying it every day in silence, hoping somehow you feel it too. When a man truly misses you, he doesn't always shout it from the rooftops. In fact, many men won't say it at all. They're not always going to text you at midnight with an "I missed you" or show up outside your door in the rain like in the movies. Most of the time, a man who misses you will show it in quiet, deliberate, and sometimes confusing ways. The problem is a lot of women overlook those signs because they expect it to be loud, obvious, and emotional. But that's not how most men operate when they're dealing with feelings they aren't ready to fully admit. When he misses you, one of the first silent ways he shows it is through his patterns. If he used to talk to you every day and suddenly goes quiet, but still watches your stories, likes your posts, or replies to things you say online, that's not coincidence. That's a man trying to stay connected to you without putting his heart fully on display. He may not be calling, but he's watching. He's observing your life from a distance, because missing you doesn't mean he has the words to explain what he's feeling. Men will often retreat into silence because that's where they feel safest emotionally. They'll bury their feelings beneath routine or pride, but you can see the cracks if you look close enough. He might find random excuses to reach out, not big emotional statements, but small practical reasons. "Hey, do you remember the name of that place we ate at? Or I saw that movie you liked. Wasn't bad." It sounds casual, but it's not. He doesn't miss the restaurant. He misses the experience of being with you. These seemingly innocent texts are actually little windows into his emotional state. They're attempts to reopen a connection without seeming weak or exposed. Men are taught from a young age not to appear vulnerable. So instead of saying, "I miss you," he'll say something safe that still brings him close to you. And when he gets a response, even a simple one, that's enough to feed that emotional hunger for a while. Another way a man silently shows he misses you is through memory. He'll bring up something you two did together, a place you went, a moment you shared. Maybe he'll randomly remind you of an inside joke or send you a picture from a place that meant something to both of you. Again, it's not a coincidence. When a man brings up the past, especially shared experiences, it means he's still emotionally attached to it. He's replaying those memories in his mind because they gave him comfort, joy, or meaning. And if he's bringing it up to you, he's hoping it means something to you too. Sometimes his silence is louder than anything else. A man who used to be consistent in communication might suddenly pull back, not because he's done, but because he's feeling too much and doesn't know how to deal with it. Men often disappear, not out of a lack of care, but because they feel overwhelmed by their own emotions. They think distance will help them figure things out. But during that space, if he's still quietly present, still finding ways to check on you, still showing subtle interest, then that's not detachment. That's confusion mixed with care. That's someone who hasn't found the courage to speak, but hasn't found the ability to let go either. He may show support from a distance. He might not be texting you all the time or trying to get back together, but if he sees you achieving something, he might send a quick congrats or mention it through a friend. He may speak highly of you when your name comes up. He's still in your corner, even if he's not right beside you. That's how you know he's not indifferent. Indifference is silent and cold. But if he's still rooting for you, still celebrating you, even from afar, that's a sign that his heart is still invested. He hasn't moved on emotionally. He's just keeping that part of him quietly guarded. His actions might also start to change. He may try to stay busy or pick up new habits, not because he's found joy, but because he's trying to distract himself from the feeling of missing you. Men don't always sit around and cry. Instead, they go to the gym, hang out more with friends, or take on extra work. They pour themselves into distractions to silence the emotional noise. But if you know him well, you can tell the difference between a man who's growing and one who's avoiding. That overcompensation, that sudden shift in how he moves, can be a sign that he's trying to fill a space you used to occupy. Men also tend to process feelings during quiet moments, when everything else stops. Late at night when they're alone, when a song plays or a scent passes by, that's when the emotions come rushing in. That's when he replays conversations and wonders what he could have done differently. That's when missing you becomes unbearable but still unspoken. He might not pick up the phone and tell you this, but that doesn't mean it isn't real. Men feel deeply. They just don't always know how to express it. When a man misses you silently, he's often waiting for the right moment, for clarity, for a sign from you. Sometimes he holds back because he's afraid of rejection. Other times he feels like he already blew his shot and doesn't know if he has the right to step back into your world. But the longing doesn't disappear. It lingers, shows up in subtle ways, in texts that don't say much but say everything, in likes and views that mean more than they seem, in moments of support and memory that come out of nowhere. So if you're wondering whether he misses you, don't just look for the loud signs. Look for the quiet ones. Look for the way he lingers in your life even when he's not physically present. Look for the pattern of someone who can't quite let go. That's where the truth lives. Not in the words he says, but in the spaces between them. But when a man misses you, he often won't come out and say it directly. Not because he doesn't feel it, but because men tend to express emotional longing in more reserved and silent ways. You might not receive a heartfelt message or a confession of how he's feeling, but if you pay close attention, you'll see the signs all around you. Men have a unique way of dealing with emotional distance. They internalize more than they express. That's why it's so important to understand the silent language they speak when they miss someone. The first thing you'll notice is his presence in the small things. He may not be talking to you, but somehow he still manages to stay around. He'll watch your Instagram stories, like a post, or leave a vague comment that shows he's paying attention. That's his way of silently tapping on the door of your world without actually walking through it. He wants you to know he's still there, still aware, still thinking about you, even if he can't say it outright. These aren't just random interactions. They're small gestures that come from a place of emotional attachment. A man who misses you also finds reasons to reach out. He might not say he misses you, but he'll come up with practical or neutral reasons to send a message. He'll ask about something random, maybe a recommendation you gave once or an update on something he knows matters to you. What he's really doing is creating a bridge back to you, one that doesn't require him to admit vulnerability, but still allows him to feel close to you for a moment. He doesn't want to lose the connection, so he chooses small, safe openings to maintain it. You may think it's nothing, but to him, it's his way of being close without appearing too exposed. He might also begin to reflect on shared memories. Out of nowhere, he'll bring up something from the past, a song, a joke, a place you both loved. These moments are his way of reliving that connection, and when he shares them with you, it's a subtle attempt to spark the same feeling in you. He's not just reminiscing, he's reaching back to a time when things felt good between you two. That nostalgia becomes a quiet language of missing you. He's hoping that by reminding you of those better days, you might remember how it felt too, and maybe even miss him back. When a man misses you deeply, his behavior shifts in subtle ways. He may become more active socially, but not necessarily because he's happy. Sometimes it's a distraction. He throws himself into work, workouts, hobbies, or nights out, not to celebrate life, but to silence the emptiness that's been left behind. Missing someone can create a kind of restlessness. And instead of sitting with that emotion, he chooses movement. But movement doesn't mean peace. If he's trying to distract himself, it's a sign that he's struggling with your absence and doesn't know how else to process it. You may also notice that he continues to support you even from a distance. If something good happens in your life, he'll be one of the first to show encouragement, even if just silently through a like or a simple message. If your name comes up in conversation, he still speaks with respect and warmth. That emotional loyalty doesn't come from indifference. It comes from someone who still cares, even if he doesn't feel entitled to show it openly. Sometimes love doesn't leave loudly. It lingers quietly in the background, hoping for a moment to be seen again. The silence between you isn't always a sign that he's moved on. In many cases, it's a space filled with confusion, longing, and unspoken words. Men often believe that keeping quiet is easier than confronting what they feel. They worry about being rejected or appearing weak, so they keep those emotions locked away. But that doesn't mean they're not feeling them. A man can go days, weeks, or months without contact and still miss you every single day. He'll carry that feeling with him into his routines, his thoughts, and his late nights. Missing someone silently is one of the most difficult emotional burdens, especially for men who aren't conditioned to express it openly. Sometimes when he's missing you the most, he won't reach out at all, not because he doesn't care, but because he doesn't know how to. He's scared of what might happen if he says it out loud. What if you've moved on? What if the timing is off? What if he opens up and doesn't get the same energy in return? So he holds it in, convincing himself that silence is safer, even though it's eating at him. He hopes in his own quiet way that maybe you'll feel the same, that maybe you'll notice the silence, the presence, the memories, and understand what they mean. When a man misses you, it shows in his consistency. Even if it's small, he keeps finding ways to be part of your life. He holds on to things you said. He repeats your advice to others. He still talks about you with a spark in his eyes, even if he says it's nothing. Those silent gestures, those emotional breadcrumbs he leaves behind, all point to one truth: you haven't left his heart. When a man misses you, he doesn't always show it with obvious words or grand actions. A lot of the time, he chooses silence over vulnerability. But within that silence, there are signs, slow, subtle, emotional clues that reveal just how much he's thinking about you. Men are taught from a young age to suppress their emotions, to keep their feelings guarded, and to appear strong no matter what. So instead of saying, "I miss you," he might hold back, hoping that somehow you'll understand what he's not saying out loud. That's where his quiet actions speak volumes if you're really paying attention. He might still be present in your digital life. He'll watch your stories but not say anything. He'll like your pictures, react to your posts, maybe even leave a vague comment every now and then. Some women brush it off, thinking it's nothing. But for a man who's holding back emotions, those small online gestures are his way of staying connected without exposing his true feelings. He's checking in without actually checking in. He's staying close enough to feel like he's part of your world, even if he's no longer beside you physically. It's not just scrolling, it's emotional proximity. Sometimes he finds excuses to message you. He won't say he misses you outright, but he'll ask about a book you once mentioned or something trivial that doesn't really need your input. It's not about the topic. It's about you. He just wants a reason to hear from you. That casual, "What was the name of that project again?" or "Did you ever finish that project?" isn't as casual as it seems. That's him trying to create a doorway back into your life without risking rejection. These messages are little tests, subtle ways to gauge if you're open to reconnecting without him having to wear his heart on his sleeve. You might hear about him through friends. They tell you he still talks about you, or he asked how you were doing. He might even try to show up in places where he knows you might be, pretending it's just coincidence. A man who misses you often searches for opportunities to see you, to hear about you, to reconnect with your energy. But pride or fear might hold him back from making the first real move. So he moves quietly around the edges of your world, hoping for a moment where the distance between you doesn't feel so wide. He may also begin to relive old memories, not just in his mind, but in conversation. He'll bring up a song you loved, a moment you shared, a trip you took. He might not say it with deep emotion, but the fact that he's bringing it up says everything. Memory is a powerful emotional indicator. When a man can't stop thinking about the past you shared, it's because he's still emotionally tied to it. He's hoping you remember it too. Maybe it still means something to you like it does to him. That nostalgia becomes a silent bridge between what was and what still might be. Missing someone also affects a man's habits. He might start to act differently, more distracted, more isolated, or suddenly more involved in things that weren't part of his life before. He might go out more or spend more time at the gym, but it's not always because he's thriving. Sometimes it's his way of trying to escape the ache of missing you. Men are good at masking pain with productivity, with distractions, with movement, but that doesn't mean he's over you. In fact, the harder he works to stay busy, the more likely it is that he's trying not to think about how much he feels your absence. There are also times when he won't say anything, won't text, won't call, but somehow you'll feel him. That energy, that presence, doesn't just disappear. Maybe you think about him at random times, or you get the sense that something's unresolved. That's often because the emotional bond still exists beneath the surface. When a man misses you but can't express it, that unspoken energy lingers between you. It shows up in the spaces, in the silence, in the weight of things left unsaid. Even in group settings or public encounters, you might notice him stealing glances, lingering near you longer than necessary, or getting quiet when you speak. These are nonverbal ways he's trying to reconnect without making himself too vulnerable. Men are visual and behavioral communicators, and when words fail them, their eyes, posture, and presence become the message. That slight hesitation, that nervous energy, that longing in his glance, it all points to the truth he's holding in. A man might miss you deeply and still never say it. That's the hardest part for many women to accept. But when you really mattered to him, when the bond was genuine, his silence won't be empty. It'll be filled with emotion, with the weight of everything he wants to say but can't. And sometimes just knowing how to read those silent signals is the only way to really understand what he's feeling. Because love doesn't always speak. Sometimes it just shows quietly, consistently, without asking for attention.